Okay, we're good.
All right.
Sorry.
This is Mark Orbelak. I move that the items on the meeting agenda constitute essential business of this committee. Meeting electronically is necessary to protect the health, safety, and welfare of Tennesseans, considering the COVID-19 outbreak, and any rule conflicting with governor's executive order permitting electronic meetings be suspended.
This is Kyle Duvall, and I second the motion.
Any discussion? Do we say all in favor to start this meeting?
I think we have to do it one at a time.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
It's got to happen to be a roll call, and then as I go down the roll of the members, if you guys can say yes, like you're supporting the e-meeting, present, and if you have any conflicts, that'd be great. All right, I've got Ingrid first on here.
I am here, and I don't think I have any conflicts.
All right. Jeff?
I mean, I always have conflicts, but I don't think that I have.
I'm here. I support the e-meeting motion, and I don't know if this conflict is applicable to our present work, but I'm on the board at Room in the Inn.
Thank you. Kyle?
Yes, I'm here. Yes, I support the motion, and I have no conflicts.
All right. Mark?
Present. I support the motion, and my wife, Wendy, works with Catholic Charities, and I believe and Susie, I keep saying this, I'm guessing they get HUD money or money from you guys occasionally, so.
They do. They've got ESG funds. Yep.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Mark. And Will?
Present, yes. And we received Metro money and ESG money too at Park Center.
Okay, great. Thank you. Done.
All right. Thanks, Susan. And Mark?
You guys left me off.
Jonathan.
Jonathan.
Jonathan, I'm sorry.
President, yes, I support, and no conflicts.
Sorry about that. Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Welcome, Jonathan.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Looks like first agenda item is the charter HMIS update, and that sounds like an Abigail or Sue's update. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think the update is just, you've seen the document, maybe you had time to read it over the weekend or on Friday afternoon, but it's just incorporated the edits from the last meeting and Will, Mark, and Jeff's comments, some of which were grammatical, formatting, that kind of stuff. And I've tried to attribute those comments on the right-hand margin of the document. And you might have noticed from the minutes last time that the minutes are kind of funky when you're always reflecting back on the document. If we can try and kind of run through the actual document and, either accept changes or do whatever to the current document, I think it's going to be that's almost a set of minutes that is almost easier to follow from meeting to meeting, but that's just my suggestion.
Okay, thanks, Sue. That sounds good. Would you be the one that's like, are you going to keep the current copy and make those, accept the edits and all that as we go along today?
Yep.
Okay.
I'm going to try my best at that. Yep. I'm going to try and pull up the document itself. I can do this. File is in use. All right, give me a second here.
Hey, it's really great to see all your faces.
Hi, Ingrid. All right, I had that open and it wouldn't let me open a second one. So let's try again.
Good to see you.
Hugs at meetings.
Okay.
What'd you say?
I said I miss giving hugs at meetings. I'm a nerd.
Ingrid, I was pleased to see in the minutes that you, in fact, had proposed that future meetings would have coffee and donuts, like a fellowship time.
Thank you. It's my job.
And Ingrid,
Fellowship.
And Ingrid, if you're going to be a nerd, a hug nerd's the best kind of nerd you can be.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Can you guys see the file that I've just uploaded?
Yes.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay. Now, I can read it, but there's probably a way for me to enlarge if one of you guys can instruct me on how that happens.
Well, we can also just read it from our own. I mean, yeah, that's the thing, but also you sent us a copy, so.
True. Yes. True.
I've got a hard copy too.
Great. Good. That might help. I should have done that, Mark. Good idea. Okay, so what I've done here is, again, this is the version for today's meeting, and that's what for the next time, we'll just change the date at the top and sort of run along. There were a couple of parking lot questions that Ingrid posed, and I put those at the top. And then as you go through the document, what I've got is track changes. Are we moving here? I don't see more pages than one. That's interesting. Okay, little technical glitch here because I'm only seeing the first page. We may have to rely on you guys looking at what you've got.
It looks like I have control. I'm the one scrolling right now. Can you all see that?
No.
No, not moving.
Since it's a PDF, what'll happen is that you can actually scroll through it yourself, and you can zoom, unzoom, that sort of thing on the page as you go through it.
Oh, yeah, you can do it all on.
Thank you, Blake.
Yeah, that little thing on the left-hand side makes it bigger or smaller for each individual person.
Okay, right. The magnifying glass?
Yeah, and then
Right
each
on.
individual person can make it go up and down.
Okay. I'm still, though, on the doc I'm sharing, I don't see beyond page 1. And Blake, I thought this was a Word document I was working on, not a PDF, but I guess you're seeing. Anybody else have the opportunity to share the document, and then it'll have to be up to them to do the track changes? All I'm seeing is page 1, so I've got a technical difficulty that I can't come out from.
That's all I see, page 1. I can go up and down page 1.
Do you not see like an O1 over on the side next to the magnifying glasses?
I do indeed. Okay. Now, but the fact that it's a PDF, I think I just saved it as that by mistake here, is I won't be able to do the track changes even if I were paid $1 million to do that.
Yeah.
If
you want to change it, I don't mind sharing my screen. And
do you mind? That'd be great.
If you'll make me the sharer, I can share my screen and then.
Okay. Thank you.
I don't mind making changes.
All right, Blake, can you send it to Ingrid, the presenter, Paul? Thanks, guys. I'm just, I don't know how I saved it to a PDF, and I can't do anything to it.
Okay.
And then how do I get out of the doc that okay, good. Great, Ingrid, thank you.
Okay, can you see this now?
Yes.
I can.
Okay, great. Okay, you just start, and I'll go to where we need to be.
Okay. I'm going to stay off video because I'm having some weird bandwidth stuff over here. So, Ingrid, you can't see my face anymore?
I'm sorry.
Okay, Ingrid, the two questions you had were how to call a meeting, a special meeting kind of thing, and the mechanics for that, and then the code of conduct, whether something ought to be added to this charter to assure decorum and respect at the Continuum Care General meetings and the Homeless Planning Commission or council meetings. We don't have to decide those today, but I just thought I'd post them up there. And then all the rest of them were sort of changes made by either Mark or Jeff, and you'll see the track changes in the document itself. And then what I tried to do with some of Mark's is attribute those to him in the balloons on the right. So if you want to just keep on scrolling down to that one, yeah.
Yeah, let's do that one. Thanks.
Okay, thanks. And Will, I think you'll know what you're seeing here. I just wanted to sort of preface it.
Yeah. Thanks, Susie. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say for Ingrid's first question, how to call a meeting, we can put that in the parking lot, keep it in the parking lot, but that's page 8. It's just under G, meetings, quorum, and voting. I think we just put a couple of sentences in there, how to call a meeting. So it's clear.
Okay, I'm just going to add that up here that it's page 8. How's that?
Yep, I'm noting that.
There's a lot of standard language. You just Google, I can send it. I'm sure Jeff can send it too, so pretty simple. And as Jeff would point out to us, or I would, that's sort of bylaws stuff eventually, maybe in 2 years when we separate these two documents.
Yeah, and then we'll have to filter in the language that the city requires in terms of a week's notice for some of this stuff. And I don't know whether for a called meeting it would be even like more than a week's notice, but we'll figure that out through Metro Legal.
Great.
Okay. Looks like Mark added if applicable, and then I was thinking, we had a bunch of conversation around housing first and what to do about that. And Kyle, especially want to hear from you how you feel about this. But instead of calling out housing first, which I know is hits a nerve, and part of me can't believe I'm saying this, but whatever. Instead of saying housing first, could we just have a sentence that talks about lowering barriers to housing and following evidence-based practice? So instead of just saying housing first, basically like generally talking about reducing barriers. How does that sound? Or how do you all feel about that?
Well, let me just say, last night, and I apologize, I sent over to Judy an article that I think is quite good. It shows some similarities between, say, recovery housing and, rapid rehousing. And I think it would be good to kind of read up on some of that. I spent a little time putting that together for everybody last night. I just didn't have everybody's email addresses. So if Judy could pass that on, I would appreciate it. And, let's continue the discussion.
Kyle, that's a good reminder. So for all of us, so we don't want to email the group. What we really want to do is email Judy, and then she can email the group, and we don't have a meeting, right? So you did the right thing.
That's why I did it.
Good man.
Hey, Ingrid?
Yeah, I'm just waiting to hear if we're going to accept this, if applicable or not.
Yeah. Are you able, when you look at the document, are you able to go in and change the reviewing so that we can see the balloon comments on the right? Because I'm not seeing it in that format.
I think that I have to just hover over it. Is this? Do you see that?
Yes, I do. Okay.
So if you want me to, I think that's just how it has to be done. Let me know where you want me to hover.
Yeah, I'm fine with the if applicable.
I'm too.
Okay, great.
Yeah. And then in that fourth bullet is where I was trying to go. Kyle, would love to read that. Looking forward to reading it. Thank you for sending that.
I just felt like that it would be good. It's very much research. There are many citations, and there's a lot of discussion going on, even at the Samson Hunt level right now, for people I actually know. And in terms of barriers, let me just say this. There's a discussion going on robustly, has been for several years, for those of you that are new to the committee, regarding the role of recovery housing and homeless services. And in fact, the document that I'm sending addresses that. And the interesting thing about barriers is there are individuals coming from treatment facilities, hospitals, etc., judges, courts, you name it. And they feel that there are barriers to recovery when they don't have a choice or an option for housing in sober living communities. So the interesting twist on words, that's what raises some red flags, because there have been HUD TAs that have used that, and then there have been others that have come along that have been TAs that are in the recovery community say, hold on, be careful with your language, because the bottom line is It depends on what side of the barrier you're on, if it's a barrier. And we have numerous people that come into our recovery residences, not just Welcome Home, I'm saying the community, to say the biggest barrier is not providing, the option, the choice. So, it depends on, as I say, which side of the barrier you're on. But we hear that all the time. So people are speaking.
It sounds like what Will has suggested is that we say adding low barriers. So that doesn't mean any specific thing, and it can be whatever barrier you're on. Does that make sense to you, or do we need to keep hashing this out?
I think that in general, I think we definitely need to have a robust discussion, because there are some that are in our, not just for the charter committee, but the planning council and all, because there are some in our community that would like to address this, because the truth is about 5 to 7 years ago, there was basically a purge, and there are no recovery housing agencies or providers that even received the continuum of care funding. So when you get into barriers, that phrase is pretty much identified with HUD. I'm just pointing out it's an interesting phrase for those who absolutely seek, need, choose absence-based recovery housing, and then they're struggling, well, you're creating barriers. No, we're not. In fact, we take people in that are within days of their active addiction. So I'm just thinking it'd be good to have a more in-depth discussion, and please read what I've sent out. And
Kyle, I think, thank you, Kyle. And I think, this is a document that would go out to the community and would trigger a discussion like that, And so I think we just need to, try to figure out what we're okay with in terms of the current wording that we put out there. And I think, if it's okay with you, we could take out housing first, put in lowering barriers, but we could also put in something around choice, like that you're talking about, that we're, adopting, we're generally trying to lower barriers and adopt evidence-based practices and, make choice in housing available, or something along the lines of, what you just said. Is that okay? Would that help you a little bit?
Well, I'm all for that. I'm just saying we come to a point of we really need to educate ourselves on this before we get too far down the road. And if we do, and indeed, if we put in a charter about lowering barriers, we're going to have to discuss what that means.
That sounds good. Yeah, that sounds good.
So I'm just encouraging us all, just realize I do have kind of a inroad, obviously, to the recovery community and have met many times. And those of you that have been around for 7 or 8 years know that there's been some real trust issues, the feeling that everything has become so HUD-centric in our COC that for those that may not be on the pathway of HUD or HUD funding, that they're kind of felt excluded. So I do think that we need to, if we're going to broaden our community, we're going to broaden the COC, before we go on the paths of saying, well, pointing a finger, you're creating high barriers, when in fact there are people come to us saying you saved our lives. So, whatever language that can trigger kind of education on this and discussion on this and be more inclusive, then I think that would be very positive. I'm just not sure how this may be premature right now without a little bit more discussion into it. But I will defer to the committee. I'm just simply stating some things to help generate the discussion.
I feel like this conversation is sort of taking over the entire, what we're trying to do here with this charter. And I also am feeling really frustrated because I feel like we've been talking about this for 10 years.
Ingrid, just a minute. I'm telling you, before you came to this COC, that
tell me how.
These are very important discussions we need to have, and we're not having them, and I have plenty of research that could be sent your way. Now, I simply spoke up to say we simply need to discuss this, but be careful about using one housing model and then enforcing it on some other group to say that you're creating higher barriers.
I hear what you're saying. I'm also saying that I feel like it's manipulating this conversation and that we have been talking about it for a very long time. So I'm just wondering how we want to move forward.
Well, we can move forward, but realize this is only the beginning if you go down that road. I'm trying to say let's be flexible with this, yes. But there are other research documents and there are other educational materials we need to read, and I'm not confident we have in the COC. That's why I'm sending out a very nice piece, a very good piece for study. So we can move on.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, you two. I don't really know how to move on with the wording, but I'm trying to, cater, respond to your concerns, Kyle, by putting in, a comment or some language around choice in housing, which isn't just.
I think that's good. I think that's good. And I'm suggesting we as a COC have a conversation and the planning council as well. And that's not just my suggestion. That's others in the community. I'm just voicing it.
I think taking out the word housing first is a pretty big deal in my head, that I'm willing to support that and to put in different language to try to, listen and hear and respond to what you're saying. So I'm trying to stretch a little bit on this. I hope you hear that. I'm all about, trying to have that conversation in the community, even though I'm sure there's some people that see me as being threatening to their housing model because of, what's happened in the past. I get that. But I'm definitely willing to read stuff and have that conversation and all that. I just want to get this out there, like Ingrid said. So
yes, well, go ahead and use the language, but we still need to have this discussion beyond this group.
Sounds good. Yeah.
Can I make a suggestion? And I recognize I come to this probably with more ignorance than knowledge because I'm not as well versed in some of these different models or theories as you guys are. But I think from an overarching standpoint, when we're talking about revising the charter, we should keep it to big picture governance type issues, not get bogged down in any particular theory or policy, unless something is required of us by federal law or state law or whatever applicable law is there. But I would just say in general, let's try to make this more of an overarching governance document and not any kind of espousement of any particular theory or strategy or policy that we want to implement to the extent we can.
I agree with that. In fact, the reason this has come up is because our last meeting, it was interjected that what are we going to do to hold agencies accountable for implementing housing first. There's what triggered some of this discussion, and that is one particular approach. But it's not the sum total of all approaches.
All right.
Okay, can you all hear me? This is Judy. I'm driving.
Yes.
Okay. Just with some of the language that the COC and the Homelessness Planning Council and COC providers have adopted in the last few years that are more this big picture. It's I like the conversation about housing choice, lowering barriers. That depending on the housing choice. But the other term that we have been using and are using in the strategic plan is also the goal has always been building an efficient and effective housing crisis resolution system with different housing choices for people, lowering barriers to access, something like that. I just wanted to throw that out there.
I like that idea. Agree with that.
So I really want to move towards, I'm so glad, Jeff, you said what you said. And Kyle, I appreciate the recovery community's sort of feeling of exclusion. Every time I read this section, it just seems so hard-edged. If you don't do this, we don't want you in the membership. I know we're not trying to say that, but Judy, what you just said, man, if we could just sort of condense into sort of this affirming posture where if someone wants to join the COC and they want to help people who don't have housing, need access to therapies, all sorts of things that create barriers, I mean, I think that'd be just a wonderful way to say it, as opposed to this sort of hard-ass, excuse my French, checklist. And I apologize for using the French. But every time I read this, and so that's why, if applicable, I mean, we keep, and I think this gets to your point, Jeff, which is, this is a governance document. It's not something that, we're trying to make sure people can join the cult, and they have to take the oath.
So
I like what Judy is proposing there because it's much more broader, and this is a governance document, and points are well taken. I think that's excellent, Judy.
So will you guys give me, Kyle, Jeff, and Judy permission to sort of revise this a little bit? Keep it within the HUD guidelines, all the requirements.
Maybe that's fine. I would just say I like Judy's comments too, and I want to be supportive of all sorts of housing models that work to get people to end homelessness. I do think it would be against. I think we'd be making it harder on ourselves if we invited members that didn't support what are in the bullets here. And I feel like there's some value in putting that out there and being like, this is what we need to support as a community if we want to get more HUD money and want to compete nationally. And I think we haven't done that in the past, and that's why I put this in there. So, but I'm happy to I trust you all that you can find the right balance there.
I'm also wondering if and again, just want to get this document completed and wondering, I mean, I know that we turn any of these things into Judy before this meeting, or, I know we were supposed to sort of have conversations and send updates, and it's a little bit frustrating to get on here and do this part instead of, I don't know. Does that make sense?
Judy, could you send the documents that I sent to you last night, the role of recovery housing and homeless services, to everyone? I want to make sure everyone has it. Yeah.
Yes, I can, but I'm driving right now, and started working yesterday, and in the evenings I didn't check my emails.
That's okay. Thank you. And I'm with Ingrid on that. We want to make sure everybody gets the documents. Thanks, Ingrid.
Hello? Hello?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. How do I get a COC membership application? Is that on the website?
I'll send you a link, Jonathan.
Okay, thanks. I appreciate it.
Sure.
Okay, so we're basically this whole section. We're gonna wait for you all to get together and to mark it up, and it'll come back in front of the committee again for discussion. Is that what I'm hearing?
And I think that's Abby. I don't know whether you would know, or Judy. That is a number of you all getting together, but you're not making any decision. You're bringing it back to the membership of the committee to make the decision. So I think that kind of back and forth via email is kosher.
With Judy at the hub.
Yeah.
That's great. Then we're not meeting. You guys ready to move to page 3?
Yep.
Mark, I'm sorry, one question. If we're going to take a stab at revising the section we were just talking about, I just want to make sure I understand what is required by HUD or any other entity or government agency to include in that membership category. And so just, Judy, to the extent you can get us that, or somebody can get us that, I'm happy to take a stab at redrafting it. I'm not up to speed on what the requirements are, and I don't want to miss those.
Yeah, and it may be that we only revise one or two of these things. So I always defer to Judy and Susie and Abigail on all that stuff. So I agree with you. I don't want to take out anything that sort of ruins our HUD compliance.
So, Judy, can you kind of synopsize your housing crisis resolution system and maybe send that out too? Because you've done some excellent work there, you and Abigail and others, and that might be helpful for both Jeff and Mark as well as they look at this.
And I can try and get some recent HUD language. Interestingly enough, although they do score us on the number of projects that apply each year that do espouse the housing first approach, they have placed less points emphasis on it over the last 4 or 5 years. Each year that the points that are assigned to that housing first approach and adopting it as a community, those points have gone down, which is kind of, they're sort of talking out of both sides of their mouths. But I'll be glad to get some language in terms of how it is seen by HUD as a, quote, requirement or not. And then that can help you kind of, again, frame the language that you're trying to do.
Thank you.
I think I do want to say that regardless, and I know that it's definitely not espoused by the entire community, but regardless, they have seen, and it is evidence-based, that housing first approach does move people into housing faster and keep them there. So it might be somebody else might want to find some of that in terms of the national kind of philosophy and why to back it, whether HUD requires it or not.
Thank you, Susie. So I'm trying to figure out how the best way to work for the next 20 minutes. Kind of to Ingrid's point, when I was looking at this document that Susie put together, I was like, all right, like we might have 1 or 2 sticky points because it seemed like, you know, people had weighed in and made some comments, and the comments don't look too controversial, I guess, as you go through the document. I knew the housing first one would be. But I guess, like, you know, I'm fine with the changes that have been proposed as we walk through the document by, you know, the ones that Mark and Jeff weighed in on. So there's nothing that I really want to, like, point to, but I just want to open it up to I don't know if it would be okay to just, like, open it up to the group and say, all right, is there a particular page/comment that we need to talk about, and then just generally accept the other ones, like the rest of it. If that's I don't want to gloss over anything, but I also just want to be, you know, efficient. So.
Yeah, and we've had these for a while, so we've been able to look over them. Thanks, Will.
Yeah, I'm fine with everything.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely.
I didn't have anything else to discuss, Will.
Whoa. All right. All right. I didn't know it was gonna go that quickly. But anyway.
I'm just gonna accept everything since that was just said, except for that one part.
And Mark, you're being there was no sarcasm there. You were like, that's what you really believe. Okay.
I mean, I believe at a theological level, Will.
And Kyle, I'm just checking in with you. Like, you're really good for the rest of the document?
Yes, I said what I needed to say, and let's just move on. Thank you all.
I don't want to make another sticking point, but that the semi-annual meetings, there was some conversation about that last time in terms of, but semi-annual could mean any number of things, right?
Yeah. And I'm okay with, I think we decided that it would go to, governance or some other committee? I can't remember the name of that committee now.
Maybe membership.
Yeah. I felt like we wanted to get input from them on that.
There was a dot on the one about membership, and it just said, check with membership committee.
Yeah, that was really more to get from them the benefits of membership, which they broached very briefly at their last meeting, and they're going to tackle that more at the February meeting. But they weren't really to be asked about like the number of general membership meetings that would be optimal during a year. But if you guys are all right with semi-annual, then that could mean 2, that could mean 4, that could mean.
Yeah. I think, you know, I want to make sure, Kyle, you feel like you were heard.
Oh, absolutely. You know,
and 4 is, I'm okay with, you know, we meet monthly now. If we go down to 4 a year, I think that's a big step, an improvement.
yeah.
In my opinion. So I'm happy to start there, but yeah, to meet
Jeff's comments. Jeff had some very good comments, I thought, last time as well, and I read the minutes that Susie put out. It kind of brought back my recollection, but yeah, I just want to know where we are on it and move forward.
Okay. You guys want to put in, is it okay if we put in 4 meetings a year? That'll kind of have a ripple effect throughout the document probably, but
I'm certainly good with that.
And then let's try to not negotiate up to like 8. let's try to like stick with try to go down if we have to negotiate. But anyway, let's hold firm.
Yeah, 4 sounds great.
What page is that number? Sorry, what page is the number of meetings?
I had it on page 3 of the original document. That may have changed.
Then there's one at page 4 at the bottom, organizations.
On page 3, is that under?
It was right under the Housing First bullet.
Oh, okay. Well, so that is still up for grabs, that whole section. And then did you say at the bottom of page 4?
Yeah, maybe in a different place now, though.
Yeah, it's under C, representation and voting, and then organizations. It's the second line.
Oh, okay, great.
Yep.
Just semi-annual, and we want to say quarterly. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, thanks, Ingrid. And I guess this will be, I guess the group that is not meeting, but identifying language for that other section. I guess, Susie, like after that happens, can you send out that revised document? And then I feel like our homework would be to go through this document again. I don't know, yeah, and just make sure that we don't have more comments and edits for the next meeting. Like, I feel like we should all probably look at the revised copy again and go through another round. But I don't want to, just get stuck in the mud here. But
why don't I try and commit to prod you guys who took on some responsibilities, get that, and then get the next revision out to you all at least 2 weeks before the next meeting, so you have more time to consider. I'm seeing right now the bottom of page 4, that date's already passed. It talks about the initial periods that terminate June 30th, 2020. So we're going to find bits and pieces, but
yeah.
Can we just make a commitment that we're all going to look at it before, so we're not just like scrolling the day of? Because I feel like we could make more progress if we were prepared. Mark.
Sounds good.
and I didn't get this to you until Friday at lunchtime, so that's not fair.
Hey, everyone, my apologies. I have to run, but if you'll send this out, and again, if I just make sure I understand what the HUD requires with respect to membership, I'm happy to take a fulsome look at this and send any edits around.
Thanks, Jeff.
Hope you have a good one.
Yeah, thank you, guys. Sorry for the early departure, but I've got to catch a meeting. Bye, y'all.
Yep.
Bye. my board chair uses the word fulsome all the time, and it's a new one for me. But sounds like so Southern.
What word?
Wholesome, Fulsome.
Oh, yeah.
What does it mean?
It's wholesome but fuller.
Oh my goodness.
Whatever.
It means complete, complete, the spirit of completeness, I think.
He also, my board chair said, it's like chewing your cabbage twice. Which I don't,
Gross.
sounds very Southern too, but I don't know, or Irish or something. But anyway,
Well, I heard a good one the other day. Have you heard of all hat and no cattle?
No.
No, but I know a lot of people with all hat and no cattle.
Isn't that great?
Too many.
Have we really disintegrated?
That's my new favorite. That's my new favorite. Thank you, Susie. I'm going to use it at least 4 times a day.
Oh, cattle. That's good.
okay.
Next.
Yeah. Okay, so I do want to give you all a heads up. I think, at the last meeting we were talking about, I guess, the meeting frequency, like going from monthly to 2 or 4. And we talked about the need to, if we were going to do that, we would need to direct a lot of the work, really emphasize the committees maybe more than we do, or, push the energy to the committee level. I think I'm communicating that in an accurate way. So I don't know if this is the place to do it, but I was in my edits for February, I was thinking about trying to propose a different committee structure, and I know that that's a touchy subject too, because there are all sorts of committees that are doing great things, and I don't necessarily want to just dissolve them. I don't know if we even can, but just taking a look at our current structure and seeing if it is what we need now, and of course that would need a ton of input from Abigail and Judy and other folks, but I was thinking about maybe trying to weigh in on that, since the committees are identified in this document.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, anytime that we Judy.
I can't hear you, Ingrid.
Say that again, Ingrid. Go ahead. Say I didn't hear you.
Oh, I think Judy was trying to make a comment, so I'll let her go ahead since she's driving.
Yeah, just briefly, I think it's appropriate your discussion that you're having right now to come up with a recommendation to the Planning Council. Also, in the strategic plan, it is a task assigned to the Executive Committee from the Homelessness Planning Council to the Executive Committee to revisit all the structure, committee structure. So it would be appropriate if you come up with some comments or separate. You can even make it a separate document with recommendations on that, whatever you please.
Yeah, I think Will's making a good point there too, and I'm just thinking as we cut back on meetings, if we go to 4, you're still going to need more committee participation, but what do we actually need, and what's the best use of the committee's time? But it's going to take more, I think, committee work the less meetings we have.
Okay. So I will, thanks you all for weighing in on that. That's helpful for me. And I think that'll be part of my homework, will be to put something on paper for you all to respond to with enough time before the next meeting.
I have a suggestion, Will. I just reread all the committees. They all seem to have important roles, and we've used almost all of them in my experience the last couple of years. I'm wondering if what you may want to do is amplify sort of the ad hoc / task force section. So committees tend to have a life of their own, whereas a task force, like you've helped me with the tax referendum task force, and we just basically finished our work. And so I think my experience with nonprofit boards is that to the extent you can create a task force, do a one-off and deal with a problem, come up with a solution, make a recommendation to the board, then it's much more compelling to join a body like that to get a task done than it is, hey, would you want to be part of the X committee, which, meets in perpetuity, whether they need to meet or not. So I'm just wondering if we want to sort of think it through that way. I mean, you can certainly start pairing off some of the committees that may not have met in a while. But I'm wondering if that's what we want to focus on, because that, the Homelessness Planning Council, the CFC, can then direct, hey, we need a bunch of people to deal with recovery communities and articulate their needs, because clearly, thanks to Kyle, I didn't really appreciate how much lack of wisdom I personally have in that arena. I was like, housing first, hell yes. But, I'm wondering if we want to amplify that section. Just something to think about.
Thanks, Mike. Okay, sounds good. Anyone else have any thoughts before we end this meeting? I think we actually got through a lot, even though we got hung up earlier.
Well, I think the pace has gone real well, and we're going to have discussions. If we don't, we won't move the needle, I'm afraid. So, but yeah, this looks good, and I'm very appreciative for our committee. I think we made some good progress here. Thanks to all.
I'm wondering two things, both of those, the initial questions from Ingrid on the top of the document. How to call a meeting. I can just look up some standard language about how to call a meeting and then, put it in the draft. And then in terms of a code of conduct, I'm just wondering if any of you guys have seen a nice, brief but sensitive and respectful kind of wording that other groups have used to just make sure the whole discussion within some of the general membership meetings remains civil. I can look up stuff, but you guys might know of some examples.
I'm happy to look that up.
That'd be great. Thank you.
By the way, Susie, you may have seen this. The Metro Council actually has a little commission on civility where they're trying to help their own body be more civil to each other. I may have some language, Ingrid, too. I'll go look it up from prior nonprofit board experience where, we had a couple of board members who were just difficult.
Yeah, that would be really helpful. I also want to get some current language in there just around equity stuff. I know we already have an equity reading, but that plays a part of the conduct as well, I think.
Cool. Okay. Thanks, Susie and Ingrid. And hey, Abigail, to Mark's point about the ad hoc stuff, do you mind just sending me a quick list of all the existing kind of ad hoc committees that aren't in the charter?
Sure. I think that's great. And I actually was going to ask if we could consider moving the equity committee to a standing committee, because that work is not going to be finite. It's going to continue as we move forward. So that would just be one thing. And then the other thing that if I could throw it out there is, I know you just accepted all those track changes, Ingrid, but if we could keep them in so that when we have to show this to the CSC membership, they can see all those changes. So Susie, I guess if you can make any edits that were made today onto the version that you had. I didn't think about it until after Ingrid already accepted them, but they'll need to see those.
That's stressful.
I know, it's ugly to look at, but they'll need to see all those changes.
Oh, no, I hope I didn't screw anything up. It's always that stresses me out when I accept things and then we're like, oh, just kidding. It's like, ooh.
Yeah. I know, I didn't even think about it until later, and I was like, oh, wait, they're going to need to know what those changes are.
Susie, you
Sure.
don't copy with the original. Okay.
Yep, I sure do.
That just stresses me out.
You're fine. Thank you.
Yeah, that's the genius of Susie, where she dates these documents. So the February 1st document is still sort of there. We didn't lose it. So thank you, Susie, for keeping us on track.
For being a miracle worker.
Hey, Abby was the reminder right there. Okay, cool.
Are we going to give her sainthood now?
With a lowercase s.
Okay. You deserve it, Susie.
Hey, Will, you just asked Abby to do something, and I can't remember what you just asked her to do. What did you ask her?
Task force list of committees.
All the ad hoc committee lists.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Hey, sorry, you all. Okay, I got distracted there for a minute. Phone call. So, yeah, there's like preschool closing because of COVID and childcare stuff. Anyway, you all, I didn't hear the last thing that was said, but if we're wrapping up, I just want to say I appreciate you all. And, yeah, I look forward to the next meeting, and we got a lot of homework to do, which is good. What else did I miss?
I think we're ready to adjourn, Will.
Okay,
Seriously.
cool. All right.
Motion that we adjourn from this COC charter meeting.
Awesome. All right. Bye, everybody.
Thanks, folks.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Uh,